When I saw the news about the Trump rally in Pennsylvania where an attempt was made on Trump.
And you know what else they say about my people? The polls. They say, I have the most loyal people. Did you ever see that? Where I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? It's like incredible.
I'm back, motherfucker! These motherfuckers, I swear, they tried to kill your favorite bitch! They tried to fucking kill me! I'm not going down without a motherfucking fight! I'm here in London town, motherfucker! Who's running the motherfucking party?
This is going to be a big fucking deal, and it's very confusing, it's overwhelming, it's intense. It makes me worried about our political future as a country, as the United States, as just people. And I'm also worried for activists, revolutionaries, anti-fascists, anyone that has the capacity to oppose authoritarianism, fascism, and disinformation. All of these thoughts are coming to me immediately, but I also feel angry. I feel fucking angry. I feel confused. I feel really enraged at liberalism, at the centrists, at the way that people are bending over backwards for Trump. They're bending over backwards, trying to lick at his toes. They're trying to lick his feet. They're For those that are new here, hi, my name is Prince. I'm a writer that makes videos, other kinds of social media content about Black history, about anti-capitalism, about James Baldwin, and Black life and culture. I also grew up with a stepdad that deeply loved reading and taking mainstream news and debating it. And for me, as an anti-capitalist and someone who's an anarchist, I don't even fucking vote in federal elections. But I do think it's extremely important to understand the way national politics are swaying, the way political figures and elite and leaders are spinning narratives, and how in the US, the two-party system is essentially just a reformation of the struggle for Southern states to achieve states' rights, and this sort of age-old contradiction in the US where we claim to be about diversity and unity, but that diversity and unity is usually for the cause of genocide and xenophobia and bigotry. So I want to break down a few different things. This whole Pennsylvania event, a few days ago, Donald Trump had a presidential election rally, and during that rally, an attempt was made on his life. Also a photo of this that's gone viral. All of the news about it since has been very interesting, overwhelming. My first question about this whole thing is, why would it not be staged? Why would it not be staged? Trump is a white capitalist man who is a sexual assaulter, who is racist, who has had a history of documented racism, whether it be socially or through his business practices. He has evaded taxes. When you think about what a greedy and evil white politician is, Trump is one of the archetypes.
Every woman lied when they came forward to hurt my campaign.
And so for this white man who has pushed his way into the political world, who wants to constantly paint himself as a victim and an underdog, despite being of the exact demographic category that Americanism and Manifest Destiny has curated most of social life to succeed, Donald Trump wants to paint himself as an underdog.
Communication and awareness of your environment. Oftentimes, people look at the president and they have blinders on. They don't even realize that their own action and what they're doing around the president. Here we see a young woman who starts hugging the president and doesn't let go.
For a white man of that nature to be in his presidential campaign, raising millions of dollars. I'm editing this video right now. I can't fucking believe this. There's a headline. Elon Musk has said he is committing around $45 million a month to a new pro-Trump super PAC. $45 million a month. $45 million a month? Because of Pennsylvania? $45 million a month? An assassination attempt on his life legitimizes this underdog narrative. It legitimizes this notion that Trump tries to paint, that he is a victim. And what I think is sick about Trump's position in all of this is that despite being rich and an elite his whole life and having no class consciousness, all of the bigotry and xenophobia and fear-mongering that he's spewing to radicalize and garner his base. I think Trump employs a lot of straw man arguments that radicalizes a lot of poor people that want someone charismatic in office, and they don't care who needs to be the beneath them in that process. This attempt on Trump fits into this underdog narrative perfectly. How was a 20-year-old with a weapon able to get even close enough to do this? Secret Service typically goes into a space, an area where an event is going to be, especially with a former president. After you're president, they have Secret Service follow you for years. You're not allowed to drive yourself.
We start looking at long-range issues that I need to address. I need aerial surveillance. I need the ability to understand what that airspace looks like above me. I need to understand if I'm near a terrain feature such as water, how do I mitigate the vulnerability that's coming from that waterway? So do I need police boats out there? That starts to become that outer ring. So protective methodology in these concentric rings, you want to address those types of threats as far out as possible. That's really the tradecraft, and it comes down to experience. It comes down to constant training and communication and awareness of your environment.
How? Why would it not be staged? And does it not make total political sense for someone in Trump's team to pay someone or to orchestrate a situation where mere days before the Republican National Convention, mere months before the presidential election, on a fascist president's life to legitimize his political platform, instead of the fact that this is a white man who has made enemies? Why does whiteness get to politicize violence for its own gain while everyone else, people of color, indigenous people, undocumented people, LGBTQIA people, and beyond, the violence that they experience or is enacted against them is either criminalized or invisibilized? Trump is a racist capitalist with countless enemies, with so many things that he's done wrong, and is a legitimate threat to political autonomy and democracy. Whether or not Americanism, as it stands within the two-party system and the oligarchy that it is the solution to Trump, I don't fucking agree with that. Think about the fact that when Trump lost the election 4 years ago, he spread so much disinformation and lies that he radicalized and stoked the political anger of thousands of people in Washington, D.C., to the point that these people stormed a federal building, scaled walls, scaled gates, went in, broke windows, live streamed, took photos, threatened politicians, threatened people. And this was all because of Trump's disinformation and his team's disinformation. This can just be a part of Americanism, just like a sport team wins and white people go into the city and they turn over cars and they burn shit. That's not a riot. But black people opposing police brutality and burning some shit in their neighborhoods, that's riot, that's violent. Now we can also look at what's currently happening with the ongoing genocide against Palestinians, and Netanyahu continues to call Palestinians children of darkness. He continues to conflate all Palestinians essentially with Hamas. We can see once again how the political elite can use a particular act of violence to legitimize a unbelievable campaign of destruction in response for the cause of colonial violence and displacement that numerous war-profiting companies that have started in the US have speed delivered thousands and thousands of bombs, like Boeing Company. And somehow certain forms of political violence, when they serve the oligarchy, when they serve the elite, or they serve profit, somehow that is just like totally acceptable. Or if it serves fascism. We can look at 9/11. A terrorist attack happens on US soil, and for the next decade, the US can go into other regions of the world, bomb it, drone it, kill countless civilians, create entire carceral structures of torture like Guantanamo Bay, and legitimize it over a decade. Over a decade. When I name all these different forms of political violence, I think what it comes back to again is that when elitism is under attack, whiteness and elitism gets to respond however it wants. It gets to over-police, it gets to resort to militarism, it gets to pass laws that restrict freedom of speech or human rights. I mean, look at 2020. Yet another black person was brutally killed by police. And around the country, around the world, people responded by the millions, if not billions. And what did the US government do? Instead of listening to legitimate claims to either reform policing or to abolish it altogether, instead of responding to countless demands across different cities in the US, different city councils, politicians, they had a chance to respond to countless demands that provided structures and processes and frameworks on how to move towards abolition. Yet, for weeks on end, what did our government do, whether federal or state? They parroted certain claims about police reform or abolition, funneled National Guard, the military, into countless cities across the country to brutalize people, white vans going into cities and snatching people up, cities passing laws that essentially make protesting illegal if you have over a handful of people gathering, door knocks from FBI agents in numerous cities. Once again, we can see that any sort of unrest or political violence enacted by the marginalized will always be considered a threat to Americanism and democracy as we know it. Yet political violence staged or enacted or radicalized by the elite is seen as totally legitimate and something that that the masses, that people like me, a queer black person, just have to deal with. When people that look like me get killed on screen and it gets spread around and people are actually angry, they'll just send in the military to fuck you up. To have a nation built upon the genocide of indigenous people to be bought and built with the labor of slaves. All of these things are a foundational part of Americanism, and they're literally taught in our history books. They're taught to children. This propaganda and disinformation is spread through the news. And that leads to one of the big first news events that I remember understanding the savagery of how elitism and whiteness treats blackness is Hurricane Katrina. These images are where my realization started that our suffering is fuel. And for this world to change, we have to redefine what our suffering means for ourselves and for everyone else. The violence enacted against us is profit.
We are black people and we shouldn't have to feel like this. We shouldn't have to protest because y'all are treating us wrong. We do this because we need to and have rights. It's a shame that our fathers and mothers are killed and we can't even see them anymore. It's a shame that we have to go to that graveyard and bury them. And we have tears, and we shouldn't have tears. We need our fathers and mothers to be by our side.
15 years old. He had to watch this as this was put all over the outlets and everything that was possible to be shown.
I believe that we live in a political system that literally uses violence to control people, to propagandize people. It uses our carceral system to criminalize modes of behavior that are a byproduct of capitalism and how it drains resources, how it creates hierarchy, how it puts people at the bottom, how it exploits certain class positions. And then it criminalizes that through force, through carceral violence, through so many things. Almost every form of violence that the state can enact is considered legitimate on some level, but the violence that regular people enact in their lives is so deeply criminalized, yet that criminalization also works towards profit. The prison industrial complex. This is a time to oppose fascism. This is a time to name fascism, to name the different components of it, to name the ways that fascism uses spectacles of violence, the way fascism stages certain events. It's a time to call out the theatricalness of U.S. and American politics. I mean, January 6th, does anyone remember the Onion Lady? The lady that claimed she stormed into the Capitol, and you can see the live stream, and she's like, they maced me, There's an onion in her rag.
What's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Elizabeth. I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee.
And why did you want to go in?
We're storming the Capitol. It's a revolution.
Thank you.
It's all political theater, but it's political theater to serve whiteness and to serve fascism. Opposing fascism necessitates that regular people like you and me, that on an individual and collective level, we understand the many different points of intervention. And I think this right now is another major opportunity to exercise a point of intervention. How are we talking about political violence? How are we talking about political violence enacted by different kinds of bodies on this land and in this country? How are we talking about how the mainstream news navigates fascism, how it doesn't take fascism seriously as a threat, how legitimizing the two-party system is another form of upholding a certain kind of fascism, a certain kind of oligarchy, a certain kind of lie about what democracy actually is. And that can also include hiring someone to make a fake attempt on your life days before the Republican National Convention, while you're a white man painting yourself as an underdog. Opposing fascism means that we must be skeptical of how political violence against the elite legitimizes mainstream politics, legitimizes campaigns of genocide, political conquest, and taking away of human rights, taking away of the right to protest, taking away of the right to freedom of speech, saying that anyone that disagrees with Trump or his team is against democracy or Americanism. Instead, we have to concentrate on empowering the masses to liberate ourselves. And so this brings the question of, if this assassination attempt will lead to Trump being able to raise millions of more dollars, being able to further radicalize his base and legitimize his identity, a strong leader, as someone who can survive being economically targeted, legally targeted, socially targeted, and now physically targeted. If he can paint himself as a hero, as someone worth becoming like, and Trump wins, what are people ready to do in order to oppose fascism and authoritarianism? The two-party system, whether it's a liberal or a conservative or someone in between, it still all legitimizes holding up a false democracy, and a democracy based in this long historical genocidal reality of violence, where some people deserve to die and some people deserve to live. But I think we all have to be prepared to really analyze and understand what mainstream media is here for. It's here to tell stories that get views and feed advertising dollars and feed a business model. I think we should be very aware of how politicians use decorum or respectability to bow down to fascism. And I think we should take very seriously what we're going to do to protect ourselves and our communities if there is another Trump presidency, or if there's another Biden presidency. I think regardless, we can look at the protests supporting Palestine on different U.S. campuses, how much brutality occurred, how much state violence occurred, that no matter if it's a Democrat or Republican in office, we should still be worried. But I think with everything that Trump represents, we're entering a very new and scary era of what can be possible. And I think we should all be educated, be talking to each other, and acknowledge our fear, but also acknowledge our power in breaking down hierarchy and understanding the news and engaging with things critically, and also organizing. That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. I feel better now that I've talked about it. I think it's all pretty fucking scary. I'm mad that Trump is still running. I'm mad that all of this is happening and that his fan base is, they're eating this up. They're eating this up. And I'm also just shook that a writer of a bad memoir, the writer of Hillbilly Elegy, which was turned into a fucking horrible movie, a guy from Ohio, is Trump's vice president. Yeah. And for the outro again, I'm going to play that Miley Cyrus clip, because as soon as this thing in Pennsylvania happened, I thought of it immediately. Stay smart. Stay woke. Protect each other. Learn. Read. Read about fascism. See you later.
I'm back, motherfucker! These to kill your favorite bitch. They tried to fucking kill me.